Good evening. I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting on June 30th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening. It's order number 25-100-9494, communication from Mayor Dumas with a request for a bond in the amount of $800,000 for the repair of the Bigelow School roof. Additionally, in order to authorize an amendment to the lease agreement with Assabet Valley Collaborative. I'll begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your approval is an order for a bond for the repair of the Bigelow School roof and an order to authorize a lease amendment. Under the lease agreement, the Assabet Valley Collaborative, AV, is responsible for capital improvements to the building, but they cannot secure bonding on their own. The lease amendment incorporates additional lease payments specifically designed to cover the cost associated with the bond to be issued for the necessary roof repairs. This financial agreement ensures that the expenses related to the roof repair will be fully supported by AVC without additional burden on the city's general fund. Enclosed with this letter is the certificate of vote from the collaborative, the lease amendment, and the Bigelow School roof assessment and inspection completed in March. The lease amendment will be signed after the City Council approval of the bond. If you have any questions, please reach out to my office. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. With that, I'll bring up Mr. Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having me. So,
just a little highlight. Obviously, thank you for submitting all the inspection of the roof, the agreement, and the information on the bond. I didn't know if you wanted to touch base on anything at all on that.
sure. So this is obviously an emergency situation. Obviously, it wasn't on the capital improvement plan, which is why it wasn't on there. It was brought to our attention that pieces of the roof ended up in neighbors' yards. So it's more of we've been put on notice to get this fixed. Talking to Assabet Collaborative, they want the whole roof done as opposed to half the roof. So we did our due diligence, so they met with their board, they signed off on it, and so now they cannot get a bond because they do not own the property.
Correct.
So that is why before us, they'll go through the whole procurement process internally through the city, and then they'll just be on the hook for the actual payments.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, I will open up to anyone on the Finance Committee. Council Orm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, just so we understand the Assabet Collaborative, a little bit about them. They're leasing the building. What do they do in that building?
What do they do? So they work with other communities to get individuals or students that cannot be in the classroom. They are there. So Marlborough actually utilizes them for their services. So we want to do everything we can to keep them in Marlborough, obviously because our transportation costs will go up.
Sure. So it's being used as a school then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Council Biden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question is have we as a body here or as your office ever considered selling them the property? And then therefore they could pull their own bond?
So they are interested in purchasing, but there's a lease until 2038. I think that's a conversation for another day. The roof is obviously a little bit more important. My concern as mayor is if we were to sell it to the Assabet Collaborative, then they would own it, and then they could turn around and sell it, and then we will have no control over what that parcel of land, and it's a pretty intricate part to the city with the park right there and with the senior center. So those are conversations that we should have probably at another time. I don't feel comfortable having that conversation tonight, but again, if you want to have that conversation, we can in my office. My main concern is just getting the roof approved so they can start that project.
Two more questions.
Yep,
one is, do you think this might be a bad precedent that the city is pulling a bond for an external nonprofit?
I would not think that because we are on the hook to fix the roof regardless because we own the building, and in the lease agreement it says that they are responsible for all capital improvement projects.
And then lastly, should we pull the bond on their behalf and something happened to the organization, do we have any insurance on that bond to ensure that should they do that, we're covered as a city?
No, we
Just
have
like a private, a PMI if you were taking out a mortgage?
Sure, we'll have to pay for the roof whether they're in there or not, because the roof needs to be repaired. So we're just fortunate enough that the lease says that they're responsible for capital improvement projects, so we are fortunate enough that they have to pay for that project while they're there. If they're not there, we would still need to fix the roof anyways.
Very good.
Thank you, Councilor.
Doesn't seem like the ideal situation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just kind of reviewing this, obviously, the AV Collaborative provides services to Marlborough. Do we have any understanding of how many students in our district utilize their services?
I do not have that information.
But nonetheless, students are actively engaged in the program.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
That to me is extremely important that we try our best to keep that in Marlborough. Also, just based on my understanding, like you said, we would have to replace the roof kind of regardless, as we do own the building, regardless of who the tenant would be. So,
Right.
Keeping that in mind, those are all the questions I have at this moment, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
A good point, Councilor Fitzgerald. And I like how you've worked the increases as well in the agreement
Correct.
to support that bond to going forward. And,
Yep. And
I'm satisfied with the lease, and we are the landlord to be able to have to do that repair on that roof. So I'm
And through you, Mr. Chair, if I could add one more thing, we do have a seat at the table at the board. Our superintendent does sit on that board as well, so there is input regarding how the Asper Cloud is being shaped. So we do have a vote and a voice on that board as well. So
Good point, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Councilor.
Thank you. I'll go off of the previous question from Councilor Vital related to, are there any other situations like this in Marlborough where this could be asked for? I'm just trying to think, do we lease any other buildings where we're looking at a roof very soon?
not for a long term. I know we rent out Jericho Hill, and then obviously the Walker Building was Smock, but other than that, I can't think of anything.
That's the only one I could think of, is the Walker Building, maybe then. And as noted from Council Irish, our chairperson, we are collecting rent. It's not like they're getting the building for free, and there's an increase in the rent. And I think it's a great opportunity. I'm in favor of this. We offer TIFs to other businesses. I know this is more not a business, but more a nonprofit. Well, I'm not for sure if they're a nonprofit, but an educational collaborative. So I'm in favor of this. Thank you.
Good point, Councilor. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, councilors, I just remind you, this is maintaining a city asset. So this is something we do want to do. The lease is structured so that they'll pay for it. It's paid off over 10 years. That's in the lease agreement. So we want the building maintained, because if they were to leave, we want a good building to take over. So I would encourage the Finance Committee to support not only the bond, but the lease as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good point. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that note, I'm in full support of this, and I would move to approve the bond, and then furthermore move to approve the lease agreement.
So motion has been made. I will second that to approve order number 25-100-9494. That is a bond request in the amount of $800,000 appropriated for the roof repair at the Bigelow School, and additionally approving the order to authorize an amendment to the lease agreement with the, to authorize the mayor to amendment to the lease agreement with the Aspen Valley Collaborative. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries 1, 2, 3. All opposed? Carries 3-1. Thank you, Council.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask to entertain a suspension just due to the city council schedule.
Yep, because our next meeting is on the 21st. I was going to, absolutely going to ask that. Thank you, sir. The Finance Committee's okay with having a suspension?
Yeah, point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chair. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if someone's mic is on, but just for the listening audience, I feel bad because there's bouncing noise going on. Thank you. But back to your original note, sorry.
The Finance Committee is okay to have a suspension on the July 21st, 2025 meeting. Fine with that. With that, I will entertain a motion. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to adjourn.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Carries 1, 2, 3, 4. We adjourn at 40 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. We'll call the Personnel Committee meeting to order at 6:45 PM. We have several items this evening. First, we'll start with order number 24-100-9327, communication from Mayor Dumas with the following reappointments to the ZBA. Terms to expire as follows. Ralph Lofton, term to expire February 24th, 2027. Thomas Golden, term to expire February 24th, 2027. Robert Levine, term to expire February 24th, 2028. And Thomas Pope, term to expire September 12th, 2026. If all the members up for reappointment want to come up to the well, we'll take everybody all at once. And while everyone's walking up, I will read Mayor Dumas's reappointment letter. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I am submitting for your review and approval the reappointment of Ralph Lofton, Thomas Golden, Robert Levine, and Thomas Pope to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 5-year term to expire on the date listed below. The term calls for a 5-year commitment with the terms that should expire each year. The expiration of each member is following. Ralph Lofton, 2/24/22, Thomas Golden, 2/24/22, Robert Levine, 2/24/23, and Thomas Pope, 9/12/21. I'm asking the council for the terms to expire on the following dates. Ralph Lofton, as noted before, 2/24/27, Thomas Golden, 2/24/27, Robert Levine, 2/24/28, Thomas Pope, 9/12/26. I would like to express my gratitude to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their patience during the reappointment process. Interviews will soon be conducted to select the final member needed to complete the board. I look forward to appointing the new members in January 2025 to finalize the ZBA. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. As this has happened, we sent this to committee. The new member of the ZBA has actually been sat, and the 4 members who were here for reappointment have not. So we appreciate you all taking the time to come in tonight. These are reappointments, and we don't always send them to committee, but the Zoning Board of Appeals is, as a couple of us talked about before, is a pretty important board. I'm going to quickly read the mission, but I would like folks to kind of have the opportunity at home to learn a little bit about the ZBA. The Zoning Board of Appeals interprets and enforces Marlborough zoning code. On a case-by-case basis, the ZBA hears applications for variances, special permit requests where the zoning code designates the zoning board as the special permit granting authority, and appeals of decision by the building commissioner or any administrative official. Also, the ZBA administers the comprehensive process for affordable housing set forth under the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40B. Otherwise stated, you guys take a lot of the hits that a lot of other people don't want to take when people have complaints about what they can and cannot do with their property or want permission to do. So appreciate you all being here. If you would just take a moment to, we'll go through, Tom, we'll start with you, and just introduce yourself, how long you've been on the ZBA, and why you're willing to continue your service, and anything that you really appreciate about the position. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
Helping out the community. Quite frankly, I couldn't tell you how long I've been on the...
Press the button, Tom.
Just down the bottom. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Can't tell you how long I've been on the committee. It's been a while.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign for a long service.
Yeah, I want to give back to the community. The community has been very helpful and enjoyable for myself and my family. And using my real estate background of almost 32 years. So it's actually longer than that. It's actually 42 years.
Great.
So.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Levine. I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals since 2012 or 2013. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. At that time, when I first started, I was an alternate, and I'd like to also request that, once again, the city look at putting on an alternate or two. When I started as an alternate, there were 5 members, and me as an alternate. What that allows us to do is any decision we make has to be made, if there's only 4 people, it has to be a unanimous vote. So sometimes that can be uncomfortable when there's only 4 and it has to be a unanimous vote. So right now there are no alternates, so I would encourage please to look at finding an alternate in case one of us is sick or out for an extended period of time, to have someone to fill in for those meetings. I do it because I find it interesting. You mentioned something about taking the hits. I don't really see it like that. Our job is to look at cases where people want to do things that violate the zoning laws and to analyze to see if they have the proper hardship or other requirements to give them some special consideration. And that makes the city a better place because neighbors buy their property with the understanding that everybody has the same rules. So I like to start from no when it comes to a variance and find a good reason why someone should get some special consideration for their property. So I find it interesting and have done some training that our previous administrator had set up for us, and I just find it an interesting thing to contribute. I'd been on a couple other city council committees, well, I guess they're not committees, I was on the cable commission for years and done things like that, so I just find it interesting to stay involved.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Ralph Lofton. It's been my pleasure to serve on the ZBA for, I think, 6 or 7 years. I'm not actually sure. I share Tom's faulty memory. But as Bob indicated, our job is really to apply the zoning ordinance and the regulations and to take into account various court cases where the variances have been granted and perhaps challenged. As Bob said, we try to apply the law as it's written, and we start with no. And because of that, very few people leave our meetings happy. Variances ought to be hard to get, according to the courts, and in our case, we try to make it hard, and we try to apply our understanding and education about the laws uniformly. And I think so far we've been successful in doing that, although we've been sued a couple times. People are unhappy, understandably so. They come with the understanding and the expectation that if their inconvenience is severe enough, they'll be granted relief. But our view and the court's view is that inconvenience is not sufficient. And so that's very frustrating to a lot of people, and they often pay money. They hire lawyers before they come to the board. So they are substantially out of pocket and disappointed at the end and understandably unhappy. But I personally am happy to do it. I have not lived in Marlborough all that many years, and this is my first serious engagement with city government. It's been very rewarding. I appreciate the opportunity and hope to continue.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Tom Golden. I have a construction background. I've been on the board as the same as Bob, 2012, 2013. We actually came on the board together. And I like serving the community. And I'd like to say one thing about the board itself. We've been together for quite a while. And there's never been a raised voice. There's never been an argument. Even if we don't agree, there's a lot of respect for each one of us amongst the members, and it's a very good board, and I enjoy serving on it and serving the community.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, we'll open up to, we'll start with members of the committee. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask a question. I'm not sure who to ask it, so if any of you folks can volunteer to answer it, I appreciate it. But what do you see as the biggest changes that you've seen as far as zoning rules and regulations over the last couple of years? Has there been any significant differences in approach or structure? One of the examples I can think of is the new auxiliary housing. Is that coming into the zoning board often now? So someone can speak to that. I appreciate that.
We actually have not had a case yet with the new housing requirement. So, but we have scheduled a session with the city solicitor to give us his interpretation of the law and how we might apply it. So we're not able to answer it on the basis of experience, but we look forward to seeing our first case. I'm sure it'll be interesting. As long as I have the microphone, I would like to echo what Bob Levine said about our staffing. Until very recently, we operated with 4 members. And so there was a great deal of pressure to come to consensus, and luckily, most of the time we were able to do that. We just recently added a 5th member, as you know, but Bob's appeal for alternates and additional members, I think we are authorized for more than 5, I think 6 plus alternates, and so we've been woefully understaffed for quite a long time. Anything that might be done to relieve that would certainly be appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for example, if 2 of us are unavailable, then a citizen wouldn't be able to have a meeting. Or if one was scheduled and 2 of us became ill, that person would be out and his time might expire of the 100 days that he has to have his case heard. So it's important to have an alternate. I know that the gentleman who applied for the 5th position, his application sat for over a year. So I would certainly appreciate it if, you could advertise on the Facebook groups or whatever, try to find another candidate who would be an alternate and who could take over if one of us had to retire for some reason too.
Okay. Any other members of the council with questions? If not, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not necessarily a question, but just wanted to thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your service, and most importantly, to echo the fact that I've had conversations with members of the board just about the fact that having 5 and having alternates is incredibly important, especially right now, and what you guys have had to go through over the last year. So I always remain diligent looking for folks who are interested. I know I've sent some names up to the mayor's office, not necessarily for the ZBA, although I just want to let you know I always plug the ZBA as a place that, when people come to me saying I want to join a board, a commission, or a committee, I try my best to kind of point them in that direction. So just something that I think as counselors we should always be on the lookout for. When residents come to us asking about how to get involved, keeping you guys in mind is something that I can try to do the best I can and send those names forward to the mayor to hopefully have somebody come down here and get you guys in better shape. So I appreciate it, and I'm not a voting member of the committee, but I have no concerns with your reappointments, and I'll look forward to supporting you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Fitzgerald. President Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chair Lofton, members of the ZBA, as a guy that tries to attend as many as I can of your meetings, I appreciate the work you guys do. I mean, it's a difficult, but you guys follow what I call the 7 rules to pass the muster, and you guys apply them fairly. And as you say, a lot of them are doing it for convenience, not for hardship, and that's the decision you got to make. So I do recognize that. To the comment on alternate members, so there's 5 spots for alternate members. The challenge, we can't even fill the boards that we have. So if you guys know anybody that you want on the committee, let us know. I mean, we'll send the names to the mayor. The mayor has to approve them and send them down to the council for approval, but I'm sure this body would be happy to take up names if they come down. But I have no issues with the reappointment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chair. Councilor Warren.
And echo the same words of thanks. You don't have an easy job. I used to work in a public agency where you have to say no, but I've read some of the decisions and you say it in a nice way. So thank you for your service, and hopefully we can get you more members. Take care. Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 24-100-9327, communication from Mayor Dumas with the following reappointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, terms to expire as follows: Ralph Lofton, term to expire February 24th, 2027; Thomas Golden, term to expire February 24th, 2027; Robert Levine, term to expire February 24th, 2028; and Thomas Pope, term to expire September 12th, 2026. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It carries 2-0. Thank you all very much for your time. We appreciate you coming in. It was a very good discussion. Next up is order number 25-100-9465, the appointment of Rob McCabe Jr. to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term to expire on April 28th, 2028. You want to come and join us? Quickly read the letter from the mayor as well. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I am pleased to submit. Yeah. Would also like to invite the Chair of the Conservation Commission and former Councilor, Mr. Clancy, to join us in the well. Honorable President Ossing and Councilors, I am pleased to submit for your approval the appointment of Rob McCabe Jr. to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 28th, 2028, pursuant to Mass General Law 40, Section 8C, pending City Council approval. Mr. McCabe has had coursework in environmental studies and environmental law. He and his wife live next to the Cider Knoll Conservation land and wants to give back by volunteering his time to the Conservation Commission and his community. His cover letter and resume are enclosed. I want to thank Robert for his interest in the commission. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Mr. Clancy, I'm not going to insult you by reading the charge of the Conservation Commission from the website, so if you would like to take a couple of minutes, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the City Council. I sit here this evening in full support for Rob McCabe to become a member of the City of Marlborough Conservation Commission. Dennis Demers passed away last year, and we've been down to 6 members. And sometimes members are absent, but we are looking for new energy, and I believe that Rob has it. Of course, I've known Rob a long time, goes way back, and I know that he has expressed an interest. It was interesting because we were standing in line one time for a wake. And we started talking to each other, and he expressed interest, and I said, you're the perfect person for this position, and I'd be very happy if he would join us. So he submitted his application, to the mayor, and now we're here this evening. Hopefully he can be on the commission as long as I've been.
That's going to be quite the stretch
Came
to
on
break,
in
Mr. Clancy.
1968.
It's a long way to go.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So fully support his candidacy.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Mr. McCabe, thank you for your willingness to serve. Would you like to take a couple minutes just to introduce yourself to the committee?
Sure. Hello, everybody. So as everyone said, Rob McCabe here. I've been almost a lifelong resident of Marlborough. I think we moved here the year Ed started in the commission, but my family's been in this town since 1850, so we've given a lot to Marlborough. I've lived here over 50 years myself. Said in my cover letter, where I went to school, I went to Bowdoin College, and it was about giving back to people and focusing on the common good, and that was the spirit I take with this. And having lived off the conservation trail most of my time here in Marlborough, and when I was a kid, it was all conservation land. I've seen the growth in the city, and I think it's good growth, but there's also some areas we want to protect for the future and for future generations. So looking forward to participate, and if elected to the committee and appointed, look to serve as long as Ed did, I hope. Thank you.
We would certainly welcome that. Thank you. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So thank you for your service. Do appreciate volunteering for this. It's an important part to make sure that the greenness of our community is maintained. And I was looking through a review. I think you have an excellent background, so I think it's a great asset to help us with the community. So thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've known Mr. McCabe for a very long time, in many different capacities, from being a trackie at Marlborough High, to business partners, to neighbors and constituents of mine. But one thing that I think that maybe a lot of people don't know is that he also has volunteered his own time prior to this commission by helping out Cider Knoll, which is a series of beautiful trails over between Stowe Road and Concord Road. And he's out there on his weed whacker and his lawnmower, widening the trails and doing everything he can to make it a little bit easier. So not only am I in support of Mr. McCabe's nomination to the Conservation Corps, but my 3 golden retrievers told me specifically that they wanted to be mentioned and that they give their support as well. So it'd be great to have them.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Councilor Orm.
As the council knows, I already spoke about Rob at the city council meeting. I've known Rob for many years and very friendly with him, so I'll disclose that. And what a great person you will be for the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Clancy, if you had a little more than 57 years of experience on the Conservation Commission, I think I'd take your recommendation seriously. But on all, seriously, Rob, welcome him. Hopefully it works out well. Mr. Clancy, thank you for the support as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anyone else? With that, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
A motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 25-100-9465, the appointment of Rob McCabe Jr. to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term set to expire on April 28th, 2028. Any further discussion?
Good, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clancy.
Do you think that you could possibly ask for a suspension of the rules to act on it at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Sure.
You got it?
Okay.
Summer schedule will be a little. All those in favor? All those opposed? It carries 2-0. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. McCabe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Next up, we have order number 25-100-9491, the appointment of Peter B. Welsh to the Historical Commission for a 3-year term set to expire on June 19th, 2028. While Mr. Welch joins us, we will quickly read the letter from the mayor. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, I am pleased to submit for your approval the appointment of Peter Welch to the Historical Commission in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8D. This appointment is for a 3-year term set to expire on June 19th, 2028. Mr. Welch has been a resident of Marlborough since 2023 and has previously lived in cities including New York, Boston, Charlestown, and Washington, D.C. In each community, he has maintained a strong interest in local history. In his expression of interest to join the Historical Commission, he noted, Marlborough has done a fine job repositioning itself while celebrating our proud past. That is why I would like to be a volunteer with the Historical Commission. I'd like to thank Peter for his appreciation of Marlborough's rich history and his willingness to contribute to its preservation through service on the Historical Commission. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my office with any questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Welch, how are you? It's just down the bottom. Yep.
There we go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, that's great.
Okay. My wife and I moved here, as you already said, in the end of March of 23. I am an active volunteer on a lot of fronts. I'm retired now, but I have been for the last 4 years a literacy coach at an elementary school in Framingham, teaching reading comprehension. I do volunteer work for Audio Journal as a voiceovers, and that's a station for the blind or seriously vision impaired. I do a lot of volunteer work at WICN Radio 98.5, and I do voiceovers and volunteer work with them. I am an active member of my church. I do Sunday services at 11 a.m. every week, and I am a singer as well, so I'm a member of the Boston Sangerfest Men's Chorus. And I'm a member of the Sudbury Savoyards. So I am a bit busy guy, and that's, got to stay busy. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. So I guess I've changed careers, several times in life. I was an active employee of Amtrak when it was brand new, and I had probably 7 different positions of increasing responsibility, either in the field or for corporate, and a nationwide responsibility, and I loved it. But you go through administrative changes, and I could see the future, and I just said, I'm 45, and I think if I'm going to reinvent myself, I should do it. And so I did, and believe it or not, even though I was a railroader, I had a lot of transferable skills to senior living. And so I entered senior living when we moved back here from Bethesda, Maryland in 1997. And I started with a nationwide senior living company, Sunrise, and I stayed with them for 2 years. Then I got a big offer with a different company to run a larger community in Newton Wellesley line. Stayed with them for 2 years. And really what I wanted to do was a campus. And so I got it through a series of acquaintances. I got an offer to manage a large continuing care retirement community in Walpole. And I did that for 13 years, and I loved it. But then I retired when I was 65, and then they rehired me to run an even larger community down out in North Branford, Connecticut. And I did that for all of 2016. And then I said, I've done 24/7 my whole career, and so it's time for change. And so at that point, I became a substitute teacher in Sudbury. And so I did middle school for basically January 17 through the end of 19. And then COVID was starting, and then we were going to do a substitute remotely, and I didn't want to do that. So that's when I started the literacy program. So that's me. You know, I have 3 daughters. They're all grown, and I'm going to be a grandfather in October. So
congratulations.
Happy about that. Any questions?
That's quite the career, quite the resume. Thank you for sharing it with us. We'll open it up to any members of the committee. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Peter, it's a pleasure to see you here, by the way. I've gotten to know Peter. He lives in my ward, adjacent to Hager Pond. So he's learned how things work in the system as far as the dam at Hager Pond. So I appreciate you taking into historical commission, considering the historical significance of many things in our community. So thank you.
I've also been attending traffic committee meetings too, for Hager Street. So the traffic signals, and not signals, but speed limit signs and stuff like that. So really, I like to be a part of wherever you live. So
great. Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
Councilor Orm.
Thank you. Well, we've had 2 teachers up here now. We had Ed Clancy just prior to you. I honor you. It's a tough job, and for you to go do that is tremendous. But the one item, and by the way, I'm going to be a grandfather for my first time in September, so congratulations to you in October. I like the statement you made in your strong interest request. You noted Marlborough has done a fine job repositioning itself while celebrating our proud past. That is why I would like to be a volunteer with the Historical Commission. Perfect statement. I know it comes from the heart. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Facillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Walsh. I just wanted to take a moment. You had stole my thunder. I saw you at Traffic Commission just last week, and so I appreciate how you've been active in the community and just your willingness to advocate for your neighborhood. So I have no doubt that you'll bring that same passion and energy to the Historical Commission. Although I'm not a voting member of the Personnel Committee, you have my full support when it comes before the council. So
thank you very much,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Facillo. Councilor Doucette.
Motion to approve.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 25-100-9491, the appointment of Peter B. Welsh to the Historical Commission for a 3-year term set to expire on June 19th, 2028. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It carries 2-0. Thank you, Mr. Welsh.
Thank you.
And our last item this evening is order number 25-100-9492, the appointment of Deborah Jakubowski-Russ to the Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term set to expire on February 1st, 2028. Thanks. Before I read the letter and butcher the name again, how close? Jakubowski? Okay. All right. Every once in a while, right? Dear Council President Ossing and Councilors, I am pleased to submit for your approval the appointment of Deborah Jakubowski-Russ as a library trustee in accordance with City Charter Division 1, Section 60. This position is a 3-year term. To maintain the staggered schedule of appointments, this term will expire on February 1st, 2028. Mrs. Russ has been actively involved with the Marlborough Public Library Foundation, helping to raise funds in support of the library. She's also begun attending trustee meetings to gain a deeper understanding of the role and responsibilities of a trustee. I'd like to thank Deborah for her ongoing commitment to the Marlborough Public Library Foundation and her continued support of the library. I think we'll all echo the mayor's comments here, and we're all pretty big supporters of the library, so thank you for what you've already done and for your willingness to kind of continue on to that. Do you want to give us a little bit of background?
Sure. You want to put your mic on?
I'm not a teacher, but I grew up with, my parents were both teachers, so they instilled the love of the library very early for my brother and I, and my fondest memories as a kid were going to the library, and that was one of the first things when we moved to the town, to Marlborough, about 20 years ago, was I got my library card, because that's what you do, and still an avid user of the library now, and so I've been on the foundation for about 3 years years now, helping to raise funds. Our library is beautiful now. I hope everybody who hasn't used it goes there, use the library. And so I want to continue that with having a little bit more kind of say in the policies of the library, and that's why I reached out expressing my interest in joining the trustees. So I've been attending meetings for about the last year and a half in my role as the foundation representative, presenting what the foundation is doing to the trustees, and I'd like to continue, to serve by joining the actual trustees as well.
And before I open it up, I would like to just, especially when we talked about it a little bit during budget time, but thank the foundation and the trustees kind of for their advocacy to open up the library on Sundays, and the support of the administration and the council for doing it, because that's going to be,
amazing.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
The people who really, want to use the library the most will have a little bit more access in the time that they can actually do it. So really appreciate the leadership there.
Great.
I'll open up to members of the committee. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So, thank you for your service and for your dedication for the library. And how long have you been in the city again? When did you move in?
Over 20 years. I think
Over 20
we're
years?
21 this year. So, yeah.
And how long have you been actively involved with the library now?
Well, I was on the Friends before the Friends disbanded when we moved to the Walker Building, and then I've been once, kind of the foundation reached out and wanted an additional person. That's been about 3 years. But I, was a friend of the library before, friend of the library now.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your dedication and service to help support the library. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any further comments? Councilor Orm.
Just another thank you, and I was noticing you're part of the Garden Club as well, so
Yes.
you've done a lot in the city. Thank you for your efforts with the library and the Garden Club.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Doucette.
Motion to approve.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve order number 25-1009492, the appointment of Deborah Jakubowski-Russ to the Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term set to expire on February 1st, 2028. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? It carries 2-0. Congratulations. Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 2, none opposed. We are adjourned at 7:17.
Affairs Committee meeting to order, so we'll just keep right on going through our list. We have 2 items on our agenda. It is June 30th. It is now 7:18, so we're a little behind. First order is 25-100-9397B, a special permit application from 27 Curtis Avenue LLC for the proposed renovation and reconstruction of a pre-existing non-conforming car wash located at 27 Curtis Avenue. I believe Mr. Gailosis is here. If you want to come up to the well so that you are there, if you want to open up with any comments, otherwise we'll just get right down to business. All right, we did receive comments from the department heads for this order, and then there were some additional comments that were sent today after my request. So from the Marlborough Fire Department Assistant Fire Chief Emanuelson, Marlborough Police Department Chief Georgie, the Board of Health Director Dunwoody had no issues. Priscilla Ryder, Conservation Sustainability Officer, had commented that she had no issues, but that during site plan, they will look in more detail at landscaping plan and review drainage design to get best improvement feasible. From Building Commissioner Tway, as the acting planner, I think having the same use in close proximity to the same use is not good planning. Additionally, it's a difficult site to perform a left turn maneuver onto Route 20. And then additionally, today, as I was reviewing this over the weekend, Mr. Gailusas was sent the same special permit that was submitted for Washville Car Wash. I was comparing them, and we had not gotten comments from Mr. DePercio, the city engineer, so I asked whether some of the things that were in the original special permit for Washville should be included. His comments were that the stormwater and water sewer condition should be added using the same language as was in the proposed Washville decision. And then I have the following comments. There are still issues to be addressed during the detailed review by the Site Plan Review Committee. A traffic study will be required, and there is insufficient information to confirm that traffic can be adequately maintained on-site for the proposed number of wash bays. The proposed site layout for this site will also impact access and parking at the 31 Curtis Avenue building, so that will need to be worked out. Finally, there will be minor revisions and additions regarding utilities, drainage, site details, etc. And then Priscilla Ryder had commented back that the landscaping needed to have the same language that was in the Washville, and I think everybody has copies of that language that I can read as we go through this. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions or comments per se, I'm going to just start going through the decision. Yes.
It sounds like one of the comments that you read was actually describing the Washville site about taking a left on Route 20.
No, I think his comment was that it was still an issue. I believe that was that was Commissioner Tway's comment. Did I read it for the wrong one?
Madam Chair, I think that, Madam Chair.
But he did have his original, I don't have I just went through the comments. So do you have the full packet that includes his comments? Thank you.
I think, Madam Chair, the comment is there. I think the comment was to the other car wash, because he's not turning onto Route 20 at all. I think the commissioner just got the two confused. I'd rather get clarification from him to confirm that.
And the other piece of that was confusing.
Didn't realize it wasn't on. I think the other piece that was confusing, thank you, is that it says that the proposed wash and the site can't support the number of bays requested, and we are proposing the exact same number of bays.
And that was the comment from the engineer. I know you went to, I don't know if you need to go back to site plan. You went through preliminary site plan. So those kinds of discussions will happen once the special permit is approved, and the design of the building, the layout of the building, all of that is site plan's purview. We don't really control any of that. So I think his concern is just that, is there enough with the way you're changing the design of the building and the layout of the building enough for traffic? Commissioner Tway may be confused, but he may also be talking literally about making not the left turn from your site onto Curtis, but then from Curtis onto 20. And I don't know if that's a legitimate concern, and I guess one of the things that might be revealed with the traffic study that I think Mr. DePercio brought up. So I don't know if those answer your questions without him being here to clarify that is what he wrote. So if it was a mistake and he was confusing the sites, then I guess we can find out if that is a concern. But the rest of it, the concerns of the city engineer for the layout would be one of the things that will happen when you go to site plan and can be discussed by the committee if there are any concerns.
Okay.
Okay? So we have the draft decision of the special permit. It's pretty standard in the findings of facts. The applicant, 27 Curtis Avenue LLC, is a Massachusetts limited liability company. Its applicant is the current owner of the property located at 27 Curtis Avenue. The applicant proposes a car wash at the site, replacing an existing car wash of 50-plus years. As shown on the plans referenced in paragraph 5, this use consists of a building, accessory parking, improved drive aisles, and drainage systems and landscaped areas. The applicant filed with the city clerk an application for the use. In connection with the application, the applicant submitted a certified list of abutters, filing fees, and a site plan. Sorry, I've got my pages turned backwards here. The applicant was certified as complete by the building commissioner of the city of Marlborough, acting on behalf of the city planner. The site's located in the business zoning district. It has an area of 14,218 square feet plus or minus. And pursuant to the rules and regulations of the City Council for the City of Marlborough and applicable statutes, the City Council established a date for the public hearing. That public hearing was held on Monday, April 28th, 2025. The public hearing was held in the Marlborough City Hall. The hearing was comprised of 2 separate public meetings, April 28th and then June 9th, and subsequently closed on June 9th, 2025. The applicant presented testimony at the public hearing detailing the use, describing its improvements regarding but not limited to the municipal services, safety, curb appeal for the neighborhood, fuel efficiency, noise mitigation, and traffic flow. And at the public hearing, no residents spoke in opposition to the continuation of the existing use. Representatives and owners of adjacent properties asked high-level questions, and 1 individual spoke in favor. So based on the above, the City Council makes the following findings and facts. The applicant has complied with all the rules and regulations promulgated by the Marlborough City Council. City Council finds that the proposed use of the site is an appropriate use and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough. The City Council, pursuant to its authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough, hereby grants the applicant a special permit for a car wash at 27 Curtis Avenue, as shown on the plans, excuse me, subject to the following conditions, which shall be binding on the applicant. Number 1, construction in accordance with applicable laws. Construction of all structures on the site is to be in accordance with all applicable building codes and zoning regulations in effect in the City of Marlborough and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and shall be built according to the plans as may be amended during site plan review. Number 2, site plan review. The issuance of the special permit is further subject to detailed site plan review by the Site Plan Review Committee in accordance with the City of Marlborough Site Plan Review Ordinance prior to the issuance of the building permit. Any additional changes, alterations, modifications, or amendments as required during the process of site plan review shall be further conditions attached to the building permit, and no final occupancy permit shall be issued until the applicant has complied with all conditions, provided, however, that subsequent to the issuance of this special permit and site plan approval, the Site Plan Review Committee may authorize the phasing of site and building work depending upon weather conditions and other factors. Subsequent site plan review shall be consistent with the conditions of this special permit and the plan submitted, reviewed, and approved by the City Council as a special permit granting authority. Number 3, modifications of plans. Notwithstanding conditions 1 and 2 above, the City Council or the Site Plan Review Committee may approve engineering changes to the plans so long as said changes do not change the use as approved herein. Number 4, incorporation of submissions. All plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as part of the application and as amended or revised during the application hearing process before the City Council and/or the City Council's Urban Affairs Committee are herein incorporated into and become a part of this special permit and become conditions and requirements of the same unless otherwise altered by the City Council. Number 5, hours. The hours of operation of the use at the site shall remain the same. The current car wash is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Number 6, noise. The applicant shall comply with the city's noise ordinance and shall comply with all state and federal regulations. Number 7, lighting. Exterior lighting at the site shall be downward facing and shielded to minimize impacts on neighboring properties and comply with applicable laws. And number 8, to compliance with applicable laws. The applicant agrees to comply with all municipal, state, federal rules, regulations, and ordinances as they may apply to the construction, maintenance, and operation of the use. And number 9 is our recording of the decision. And then I will read the additional conditions that would be added by this body according to the suggestion from City Engineer DePercio and Ms. Ryder. Stormwater and erosion control management. The applicant shall ensure that its site superintendent during construction of the project is competent in stormwater and erosion control management. This individual's credentials shall be acceptable to the engineering division of the city's Department of Public Works and the city's Conservation Commission. This individual shall be responsible for checking the site before, during, and after storm events, including weekends and evenings when storms are predicted. This individual shall ensure that no untreated stormwater leaves the site consistent with the state's and the city's stormwater regulations. This individual shall ensure compliance with the approved sequence of construction plan and the approved erosion control plan. The applicant shall grant this individual complete authority of the site as it relates to stormwater and erosion controls. And additionally, water and sewer connections. The applicant shall install and maintain a water reclamation and recycling system to be approved during site plan review, and obtain and maintain a sewer discharge permit from the Department of Public Works. And the final addition would be landscaping. A detailed landscaping plan for the site shall be reviewed and further conditioned during the site plan review process. The landscaping plan shall be more robust than is required by the zoning ordinance and shall improve aesthetics along Curtis Avenue to provide a buffer to adjacent properties, provide shade canopy, and use native plants to improve habitat. The applicant, its successors, and/or sign shall maintain the landscaping at the site for the duration of the use. So does anybody have questions or concerns with the addition of those 3 conditions to the special permit? Councilor Doucette?
Yep, Madam Chair. I don't have any issues with the additional conditions, and if anyone doesn't have any issues, I'm willing to approve as amended.
And Councilor Doucette has moved to approve the special permit as the draft submitted with the 3 additional conditions added in as the solicitor would decide where to place them. Is there discussion on the motion? Discussion on comments? Councilor Fucillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here. Just one quick question regarding existing signage on the property. What kind of signage do you guys have on the location, and then where does the signing going to look like after kind of this development is completed?
Great question. And the final sign design hasn't been finalized yet because we're not even sure that we'll be allowed to do this. That being said, there is an existing sign on a metal post that's only about 10 feet off the street. We would keep something like that. Obviously, we'd go through the review process of the design of that sign, and then the only additional signage would just be on the building itself.
Gotcha.
That would just say car wash.
Sure. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. That's my only question, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I know the comment from the building commissioner for the other item on our agenda was about the sign. So it is possible, if we want to add another condition, that we could use one that I found in other special permits where signage at the site shall comply with the city's sign ordinance. It's a simple sentence. I believe they have to do that anyway because one of the conditions is that they will follow the rules and regulations. But this just clarifies it. So, Councilor Fucillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a similar understanding that it'd be covered in the rules and regulations, but I'd be happy to include that one line about signage, like you said.
Are you okay with that additional language? Is that, all right. Any further questions, concerns? Councilor Ossing?
So, am I missing it? I don't see where it says it references the plans that were submitted. Am I overlooking it? But normally we have the plans that they're going to build to, we're approving the plans that were submitted to us, and I don't see it here.
I don't know if it specifically says what the plans are, but we all got a copy of the plans that were submitted. We can reference them as what they're called, proposed floor plan, 27 Curtis Avenue from RAV and Associates, dated 1/21/25. If you want them specifically.
Well, Madam Chair, all our previous special permits list the plans that we're approving so that we know what we actually approved. Because if we just say they're going to go build something, it doesn't work so good. It's got to have the plans with a date on them so that we know what they're building, because if they change it, we need to know about it, because that's what the building department's going to go inspect too.
Right, and I'm guessing that our lack of having it would be corrected by the solicitor to make sure that the plans are specifically referenced, but I can make sure that they are in here very clearly. I believe it says it's further detailed. No, it said that the plans were submitted. In connection with the application, the applicant submitted, nope, that's a list of abutters, a site plan entitled 27 Curtis Avenue, site plan by Spruhan Engineering and structural plans by AGM Group. It's listed in number 5 of the findings of facts. Do you want it specifically mentioned in the...
I don't think that's specific enough, but I will let the solicitor determine that, because we need to make sure.
We need to make sure they are building to a set of approved plans.
Right, and at this point, I have the sense that those plans will be modified by site plan when it goes back to them with the concerns from Mr. DePercio, but I can certainly make sure that it's noted that the issuance or that the modification of the plans are specified as to the plans that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions or concerns? I think there is a motion to approve the decision on the special permit as amended. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this will, there are no opposed because that's our 5 members. This will get reported out at our July 21st meeting. We only meet twice. We only meet once July, once in August. At that meeting, I'll ask to have the rules suspended so that this can be referred to the solicitor. It would be back on our August agenda for the vote of the full committee. We have until September 9th's council meeting to vote on this. Hopefully, we don't need to go to that length, but this was step 1, getting it to the solicitor in proper form, him adding anything else, and then if this gets approved by the full body, you will go back to site plan to work through issues and other items that they have.
Okay.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you're certainly welcome to come to the meeting on the 21st, but you don't have to. It'll just be a refer it to the solicitor. Be the August meeting. All right? Thank you. All right, the second item on our agenda is order number 25-109-434, a special permit application from attorney Gemma Cashman on behalf of Royal 401 Elm Street LLC for the purpose of operating an approximate 203,500 square foot warehousing and distribution facility to be located at 415 Elm Street. Attorney Cashman is not here.
I'm here.
You've taken the rein. Oh, there she is. All right. Certainly, if you want to reintroduce yourself, please, for the record.
I'm William Zoni. I'm Dave Dittany. I'm the attorney for this project with Gemma Cashman, my partner. With us tonight will be Scott Faber from Lincoln Street. And he might be on easy out.
Use the microphone.
And can build a site. With us is Scott Faber from Lincoln, who's going to be building the site. John Cusick, who designed and developed the site plan from Bowler. Scott Thornton, who's our traffic engineer from Vaness. Now, you heard this is a 203,500 square foot facility, and to be frank, we spent 3.5, almost 4 months going through site plan review and conservation to make sure that everything was covered on this project because of its size, and we addressed everything from multiple issues, including traffic, noise, lighting, wetlands, and permitting in general. And you'll hear from the different experts today on the traffic and the design of the site and lighting and wetlands. Lincoln, we basically have a permit, a site plan approval and permit. We could build a building permit tomorrow. What's happened, however, is the market's changed, and it's going to be difficult to attract tenants of just the caliber that's allowed under your LI today. As you know, when your limited industrial district was created, it put limitations on warehousing uses and manufacturing in that area to include only footwear, precision instruments, tool and die, dental, medical, optical equipment, electrical instruments, hobby vehicles, storage, biomedical, or biotech products. That leaves out a lot of just retail companies that would want to store their products there and ship them to their facilities. The reason we're here is basically we need some relief on who we can market to fill the project, because what we don't want to do is create an empty building. We don't even want to start design unless we really know, not design, but construction, before we have a tenant. And as soon as, if we have a wider audience to reach, it's going to be a lot easier for us to move forward and to start generating the tax revenue that would be generated from this type of facility, which is a 200,000 square foot operation, which would probably generate about $500,000 a year. All right, through the guidance of the site plan review and the building inspector, when they gave us the approval, they put general conditions on it. And those basically were that we could continue, we want to expand the warehousing use for our tenants. It would be limited only to the tenant's storage and warehousing. There'd be no Amazon or high cube fulfillment center, so you're not going to get the traffic that you would see at a larger operation. There'd be no warehousing of hazardous substance or solid waste at the site. And one of the key things was that we would not exceed the traffic estimates that our engineers stated in their memos and that were approved under Condition 7 of the site plan approval. So we're willing to take that gamble, and if we exceed them, we have to change things. I think it's a reasonable request by a proven landlord, and in a second I'll have Scott talk a little bit about the landlord, who we know, because they've had other buildings in the town, in the city. They've built other buildings in the city. They have 1000 Nickerson, which they did a beautiful job on. And they need this relief in order to do it properly and to build it right and get it going. With that, I turn it over to Scott, I guess, to tell you a little bit about Lincoln at this point. You can go there if you want, Scott.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me. I'm actually really just subbing in here for Dante Angelucci, who's been really close to this project. He's our head of development. But I have been at Lincoln since 2007, and I think it's been, since I've been at Lincoln, we have been an investor and owner in the city of Marlborough that entire time, which I think we can't say that for many of the communities that are around the greater Boston area. So we're very pleased with that, and we've been very happy with the business that we've been able to do here in the city, and always appreciate all of the support we have from the city here and the business community that's in this great city. So as Bill mentioned, a couple of those projects, the most recent one is 1000 Nickerson. That was built as a more GMP life science type facility with the ability to go also advanced manufacturing for other tenants. We found that those folks are a little bit more focused on 128 at the moment. And then the life science market is obviously having a ton of disruptions. And really what we found is by being kind of in that box is that 1000 Nickerson, although it's a great product, it was overbuilt to a certain extent to match those tenant needs. So the premium that we need to obtain in order to lease that building is going to be different than the type of product we have here. And that's where the zoning relief is required, not only just for the wide audience of the tenants, but also the financing capabilities here. Folks are, when they're looking to invest in communities, they want to make sure there is some flexibility in the type of uses that can go there. So only the uses that Bill has listed off, I think, worked when life science was going gangbusters for a period of time there, but right now it's fairly difficult to kind of be limited just to those uses for this. So we're very much committed to 1000 Nickerson. We did just get a lease done there for about 44,000 square feet, and we're continuing to kind of go after more of the kind of advanced tech kind of tenants for the remaining space. But I think what we're looking at here is some of the demand we're seeing for that building would fit this demand, and we're not able to meet it at the 1000 Tech, or 1000 Nickerson, I'm sorry, I keep saying 1000 Tech building. We also had on 34 St. Martin, Brigham Business Park, and 50 D'Angelo here. All of them were fantastic buildings, and saw a lot of different of these types of tenants that we'd be looking at to have at these facilities as well. Lincoln's been in business since the mid-'60s. We've been around in the greater Boston area since the mid-'80s, and we manage and lease about 24 million square feet. Only about 10% of that we're ownership in and developers, so we do have a great depth of experience in the management of all product types in this area. So this is, again, kind of educated us and brought us to this point where we are at in this project. I would say we're fully financed and approved to get started on this right when we have the correct zoning for us to be able to do that.
Thank you, Scott. John Cusick from our engineer will go through the little site plan now.
Good evening. For the record, John Cusick. I'm a principal professional engineer with Bowler Engineering. As Bill had mentioned, we've been at this for a while, so we've worked closely with staff before making any kind of a filing, and kind of through that process, we've made some changes to the site plan that were incorporated at the filing. At that point, we went through hearings with both Site Plan Review Committee and Conservation Commission. Very, very thorough hearings, at which point a lot of changes had been made and detail added to the plans. And as you heard, we'd received approvals from both of those boards and commissions. So with that, I'm not going to get into too much of the technical data unless you'd like me to do so. So I'll just keep this at a very high level and just run through the property location and just some of the highlights of it. So the property is located at 401 Elm Street. You can see from looking at the map, just from an orientation, it is behind the existing building off of Elm Street to the, thank you. To the west, you'll see that is Interstate 495, right there. Looking to the north, you have North Branch Brook, associated wetlands. Looking to the east, you've got some more wetlands, and really to the south is you've got some industrial properties and just mixed use there. There are some wetlands on site. We worked closely with the Conservation Commission, as I had mentioned, at which point we have stayed out of all of the, we don't have any direct impact to wetlands. We just are working within the buffers. So from a proposed site plan standpoint, the plan is 203,500 square feet. The thought was to keep it centrally located on the property. Through some of our initial conversations with the city, the building was actually a little bit bigger and pushed back. One of the comments from staff was they did want us to move that back in a southerly direction into the site, which we had done, and they wanted us to minimize as much impact as possible to keep the mature vegetation that is around the perimeter. So based on that, you'll notice we're surrounded by a retaining wall, which you probably can't see that level of detail, but that was a big part of what we wanted to do, was to go through the expense of adding a retaining wall rather than grading out the site and taking down a lot of those trees. There are about 185 parking stalls. They're all located to the front of the site. You'll see the loading bays in the dark color right up against the building, about 35, and then trailer stalls on the opposite side of that. Based on the changes that we made early on with staff and moving the building back, we've really expanded the buffers that we had and saved a lot of those mature trees. So right now, by doing that, we're at least 650 feet to the closest residence house on Padula, which is on the northwest, and about 600 feet on the northeast on Wright Drive. So it's a little over 2 football fields away. And again, we've put a retaining wall up there so we could keep all of the trees in between that area. We've also kept quite a large distance from the wetlands and resource areas on site, which has helped to get the Conservation Commission approval. We're over 50 feet from any structure from a wetland and about 180 from the brook. So again, all of that was reviewed in detail with the Conservation Commission. From a grading standpoint, the site, if you're familiar with it, has a lot of topo on the site. One of the first things that we looked at was we wanted to make sure that we balanced the earthwork. It's really good practice to not bring in a lot of material or haul off a lot of material. So we worked closely to be able to do that, and we do have a balanced site as designed. Dealing with the staff, there were some concerns about how the grading operations would work on site. Apparently, there was another project in the city that things did not go so well. So based on that, we worked very closely with the comments that they had, and we really did 2 things that are a bit out of the ordinary. Number one, we brought in our geotechnical consultant early on, so a company by the name of Sambor Head & Associates, which is a very reputable geotechnical firm. We had them drill in a significant amount of borings and test pits on site, and worked very closely with Tom DiPerzio just to make sure he was comfortable with the materials, groundwater, was there ledge, how was everything going to work in that regard. And we also had them design preliminary plans for that wall that I had mentioned earlier. Again, it was very important for us to keep that barrier up to have the buffer protected, so we worked with them to have, frankly, really construction level detailing during the entitlement process. We also engaged ARCO as a general contractor, national general contractor that really specializes in this kind of work. We wanted to bring them in early on. So, many times an engineer will draw up a plan, a contractor will get it, and they'll say, I want to do this or I want to do that, and just the construction might not go the way the intent was during the entitlement process. We did not want that to happen here, so we did bring in ARCO early on, so they helped us to develop the plans to make sure that everything would be constructed the way that it actually was designed. And that process went very, very well. Through that, they worked very closely with the city staff, Priscilla and Tom, and Conservation Commission, and developed a very detailed phasing plan to talk about how they were going to develop the site and grade it out in an erosion control plan, which is a big part of the Conservation Commission process. Stormwater, fully comply and exceed the stormwater management requirements of the city and the state. We meet all 10 standards. Not to get too technical, but we comply with, or we utilize the Cornell and NOAA rainfall data, which is essentially a more conservative, so it means some of our stormwater basins are a little bit oversized than they might otherwise need to be. There's basins in the back of the site, basins in the front of the site, and fully comply with all state and local standards. And then actually, the landscape plan real quick. Oops, going back the other way. Might have been on the front, apologies. So on the landscaping plan, we worked very closely with Priscilla on that. Again, the first and foremost, our biggest part that we wanted to do was we wanted to save the, preserve the wooded buffer, which we have done through the construction of the walls right along the perimeter. Beyond that, again, our building's probably about 1,000 feet back from Elm Street. It isn't something you're going to see from the road. It's behind that other existing building that's there. That said, Priscilla was very interested in us exceeding the landscape ordinances that are in place currently and being discussed for future modifications. So we went through a significant landscape plan. You'll see a whole bunch of trees along the perimeter and internal to the site, which is well in excess of what would be required under the code. That said, it was something that was requested during the process and we agreed to do, so that is as part of the plan. So with that, again, I think based on the collaboration early on prior to filing and then some of the work through the process with the Site Plan Review Committee and Conservation, and it's a little unusual, like we have those done now. I think the plan's a very, very good plan. It frankly has a little bit more detail on it than we typically would have at this point in time. And I think everything has been addressed on that technical side of things. So with that, I could turn it over to Scott to talk traffic, and then I can get back into any additional detail that you might want to hear about the site plan if the presentation was didn't address everything you might be interested in. Excuse me.
Good evening. For the record, Scott Thornton with Vanessa & Associates, registered professional engineer and a partner and principal at our company. We prepared several traffic-related documents for this project, including an initial transportation impact assessment, really just a standard traffic study looking at existing conditions, project trip generation, site distance, speeds, crash data, and that document was submitted, and I think it's got a date of June or July of 2024. We looked at 3 intersections, the site driveway intersection with Elm Street, and then intersections on either side. So we looked at the Winter Street intersection to the east and the Felton Street and Lock Drive intersection with Elm Street to the west. In general, what we found is that based on the traffic counts that we had done and the estimated trip generation for the project, again, using a warehouse category, which is what's proposed in this case, we found that we expect the project to generate about 35 trips in the morning peak hour and 37 trips in the evening peak hour, with over a daily basis, 24 hours, we would expect those numbers to go up to 360 trips, so 180 vehicles in and 180 vehicles out over the course of the day. We add that project traffic into the future conditions, and we wind up with minimal effects at the signalized intersection of Felton and Locke and Elm Street. It's level of service D in the future with us or without us. Traffic increases or delay increases at that intersection range between 0.8 and 1.7 seconds on an overall basis. So there's no congestion out there now. The project will not cause any congestion. Following that traffic study and review by the city, the city engineer's office provided some comments looking for some additional information on the proposed use, in which case we issued a letter dated December 3rd reiterating the warehouse use, indicating, confirming that it's not an Amazon facility that's proposed there. We provided some additional discussion of truck trips on Felton Street. The city engineer was concerned with trucks, specifically tractor-trailer trucks moving through the intersection of Felton and Locke up to the site. We did auto-turn truck simulation to show the path of the tractor-trailer moving to the site, all the way from Landry Drive up through Felton Street to Elm Street into the site, showed that those trucks are able to make those turns. We had identified some potential changes that could be made at the Felton and Elm Street intersection, consisting of pushing or pulling back the stop bars on those approaches so that trucks could maneuver through the intersection a little easier. And we provided that information to the city engineer. City engineer asked for some additional information, which we provided in a December 24th letter that discussed the effect of truck traffic on Felton Street, and our estimates at the time, where we didn't have daily traffic on Felton Street, was that the project would have an impact, not a significant impact. The city engineer requested some additional information. So on January 25th or 21st, 2025, we had collected some information on daily traffic on Felton Street. It's indicated there are 525 trucks on Felton Street, excuse me, the day that we did the counts. We also conducted video, we monitored the intersection of Felton with Elm Street with video cameras to observe tractor trailers making the turns through the intersection. And we identified that the trucks are able to make the turns adequately without encroaching onto or into the path of other vehicles and other travel directions. However, we had, in addition to the proposal to relocate the stop bars, we had identified some additional mitigation, which the city engineer was looking for, related to treatment or analysis of the pavement on Elm Street. And we had agreed to conduct pavement core analysis at locations of the city engineers choosing on Elm Street to identify what types of, what the existing pavement was there. We had also identified a contribution of $75,000 towards milling and paving Elm Street if it if it was identified that the project, traffic from the project was causing the pavement to fail. We provided another letter, February 3rd, to the city engineer, and this kind of got into more of the amounts of traffic that was expected throughout different periods of the day. So if, based on the ITE data for warehouses, 87% of truck traffic occurs between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. 91% of that traffic occurs between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., which meant that during the overnight hours, if those trucks were coming in, we'd be looking at an average of less than 2 truck trips per hour over that period. We had, in that letter, we also reiterated the mitigation related to the stop bar relocation, agreed to do a post-occupancy monitoring study, as Bill had mentioned, to verify the findings of the traffic study. Again, reiterated the pavement core analysis and the $75,000 towards milling and paving. A couple things that I think are important to note. There have been no crashes at this intersection, at the intersection of Felton Street and Elm Street, in the time period involving tractor trailers between the year 2017 and 2024. The observations of the vehicles, of the video footage of the intersection shows those trucks really moving through the intersection at a walking speed. It's a very, very slow, controlled maneuver. The truck increase due to the project on Felton Street is about a 4% increase on a daily basis, 2.8% during the morning peak hour, 3.3% during the evening peak hour. We think that in context of the existing 525 trucks that are already on the street, that's not the type of truck impact that's, especially if it occurs during the day, it's not the kind of truck impact that will be noticed. And I think there was another letter that was issued which was just a few weeks ago, June 6th, that identified the trip generation doesn't have anything to do with the number of loading docks. It's all based on the number of employees or the building area. So there's a lot of traffic information, a lot of traffic review and study that's been conducted at the request of the city. I know that the city engineer had identified some comments earlier tonight, which we had noted previously. But again, I think that from the metrics that we have, where we look at level of service, we look at delays, we look at operations through the intersections, the project does not have an adverse impact on Felton Street or on Elm Street. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or turn them over to Bill.
Councillor Navin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you just break this out? I was having a bit of trouble following the bouncing ball here. So there's currently 525 truck trips on Felton Street. On Felton. We don't know if that's singular direction or not, because these are not
both directions.
It's both directions, so it's a total, okay. And then the increase is, you're expecting with the facility 360, 180, and 180 out?
Total, yes.
Per day?
So the existing traffic volume, the total traffic volume on Felton Street is about 7,900 vehicles per day.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about, but this is just trucks.
Okay, so just trucks, we've got 525.
Okay.
And then the truck trips for the site, 122 entering and exiting.
So it's 244.
It's 61 trucks entering, 61 trucks exiting.
Got it, okay. Sorry, I thought you said 180 in and out. Is that what it's can do? Is that, I heard you say 180, therefore 360.
So the 360...
I'm not good enough at math to make up those numbers.
It's 360 total vehicles. That's cars and trucks.
That was my next question. Okay.
And it's
so
122
trucks. The rest is for employees.
Yep.
Okay. And then this is not a question about traffic, but Bill, it was just about something you said, and you had mentioned as well. So it is not currently an Amazon, proposed to be an Amazon facility. Is there a...
We restricted it in the site plan approval as a condition. It says it can't be.
It can't be, while you own it.
It's in the permit, so whoever's in there.
Got it, okay. That's helpful to say.
Yeah, that's not going to change.
Okay.
And there's no intention to create something like that.
You never know where the world goes from here, so.
Yeah, well, you can go to Westboro and see it all.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions on traffic specifically? Councilor Oram?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The truck traffic you're talking about, the 61 trucks in and out, and the study you did with the 500-plus trucks a day, do you have the hourly? So, because you're requesting 24/7. What's the truck traffic, excuse me, from 7 at night or 5 at night till 7 in the morning? Do you have that data?
Might be able to have that data.
I was wondering if those 525 are during the day.
It's, again, 87% of it is between 6 and 6.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on traffic? Councilor Fricillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick question about the $75,000 payment for milling and paving. I know in the traffic and in the site plan review, it mentions $101,000 for the purpose of assessment and pavement. Is this the same thing, or are these two separate kind of entities? One was site plan and one was what was pitched, or are they?
I think they're separate.
They extracted more than the 75.
Okay, so the 101
You missed
is...
that meeting, yeah.
No worries. Okay. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Any other questions on traffic? Do you have any other parts of your discussion before we get into the details?
Well, not at this time, other than, as you know, it's site plan review. Police and fire have looked at this already. They approved it. They were fine with the design, the layout, the operation, traffic that was going to come through, and engineering and Concom were there as well. I thought it was really taking a step forward for a client to say that they would plant what's going to be required in future regulations rather than what's here today. And that was just to make sure that we knew we were serious. We're trying to get enough vegetation on the site, and we kept everything behind the site, all those tall trees. As far as the lighting, we're actually we're above Berlin Road, so they're probably not going to see anything up. What I've done in the past is, after a year of full operation, if somebody goes to the building inspector and says, this light's right in my eye, he goes out and looks at it, he comes back and says, it's right in their eye, we'd have to modify the structure, just to be a good neighbor. You know, we've done that in the past. We don't want to leave it unlimited, so we usually do it through the first year, once the place is built. The other thing is with sound, we're not anticipating that anybody's going to hear much from this site. However, we are we're just putting a contract together to have a baseline sound study done in the area. So after we build it, if somebody comes and complains, at least we get a baseline to say, yeah, we exceeded it, or we exceeded it only as allowed under law, or we didn't exceed it. So if we do exceed it and it's above what's allowed by the law, we have to make a remedy. So they're willing to take proactive steps to be a good neighbor. And I've worked with Lincoln for a long time, and they build a good product and they stand by their word. They're not going anywhere. They've been around for a long time. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
All right, so I'm going to begin with the comments that we got from the department heads, and then we'll get into the special permit decision. So from Marlborough Fire Department Assistant Chief Manuelson, and from the Board of Health, Director Dinwiddie, they had no issues. Building Commissioner Tway had said in quick reading the special permit draft, I didn't see any reference to the signage ordinance or signage to be included with the submittal. If that could be pointed out or referred, that would be great. City Engineer DePercio, during the site plan review process for a warehouse project that was presented as a by right use, I expressed strong concerns regarding the potential trailer truck traffic that could be generated, which will use Felton Street to get to and from the highway. According to the traffic study, a total of 122 additional truck trips, 276 total vehicles per day could travel over Felton Street based on the warehouse use. My concerns were specifically related to noise and safety impacts to the residential abutters on Felton Street, the ability of tractor trailers to maneuver safely through the Elm-Felton intersection, and the impacts of the heavy truck traffic on road conditions. To address the concerns about the truck traffic, the applicant made significant concessions and agreed to our conditions, which are included in the site plan approval. While these will certainly help to mitigate the potential impacts, I continue to have some reservations over this amount of truck traffic in that location. I will point out, because I would guess it will add it as a condition about the signage. There is a sign on Elm Street currently that has 401 Elm Street. It has MHQ and Metro Church. This address is actually 415 Elm Street, so my guess is a new sign would be put in, and I don't know if site plan will want site plan sign detail when it goes back to site plan, but as I said, we can get into that. So on the decision, the findings of facts, Royal 401 Elm Street LLC, a limited liability company organized existing and in good standing under the laws of the state of Delaware and existing in good standing under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, having a usual place of business at 8111 Douglas Avenue, Suite 600, Dallas, Texas. The applicant is under contract to purchase the property located at 415 Elm Street. Site's approximately 24 acres and is shown as Lot 2 on the certain plan entitled Alt ACSM, with all of those details specified. The site's located in the Limited Industrial LI Zoning District and Water Supply Protection District, Zones A and B. The applicant proposes to construct an approximately 203,500 square foot warehousing and distribution facility on the site with associated site improvements, including parking, driveways, landscaping, and stormwater management areas. The project. City of Marlborough Site Plan Review Committee issued site plan approval with conditions. Site Plan SC 2428. And the City of Marlborough Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions to the applicant for the project on March 4th, 2025. On April 17th, 2025, as advised by the City of Marlborough Building Commissioner and pursuant to Condition 3 of the final site plan approval, in order to expand the allowed scope of use for warehousing as defined in Section 650-18A36 of the zoning ordinance in the limited industrial zoning district, the applicant filed with the city clerk of the City of Marlborough an application to City Council for issuance of a special permit under Article 5, Section 650-17, specifically pursuant to the transportation terminal and freight depot use category under the Table of Use Regulations to permit the operation of a warehousing and distribution facility at the site, which, number one, the warehousing use shall be specific to any future tenants, warehousing business operations at the property, and not be limited to the allowed scope of uses for warehousing as defined in Section 650-18A 36 of the zoning ordinance, and 2, the warehouse and distribution use shall be limited to distribution by such future tenants, provided, however, the proposed uses shall specifically exclude an Amazon.com Incorporated or similar direct-to-consumer fulfillment center use, the warehousing of hazardous substances and/or solid waste as defined in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 21E, and such warehousing use shall be subject to and shall not exceed the projected traffic estimates and mitigation conditions as described in Condition 7 of the SPA as reviewed and determined by the building commissioner in his reasonable discretion. The application consisted of one original and 20 copies of the following: the application to the City Council for issuance of the special permit, a filing fee check in the amount of $2,000, the abutters list, the special permit, a whole bunch of plans. The application was certified as complete by the building commissioner of the City of Marlborough, acting on behalf of the city planner, and in accordance with the rules and regulations of the City Council for the city. City Council established June 9th as the date of the public hearing. All abutters certified by the Office of the Board of Assessors of Marlborough were sent legal notification of the public hearing via certified mail. The City Council held a public hearing on June 9th. The hearing was opened at the time provided for in the notice, and following the completion of testimony, the hearing was closed. The applicant presented testimony at the public hearing detailing the project, describing its impact, and such issues as the City Council and members of the public deemed appropriate. Members of the public had the opportunity to testify at the public hearing. One member of the public from the Marlborough Historical Society with an address of 377 Elm Street spoke in favor. One member who lives at 180 Berlin Road spoke in opposition to the project based on concerns of truck noise and light trespass. The applicant provided written and oral documentation and testimony to the City Council and the City Council's Urban Affairs and Housing Committee regarding the project, describing its impact upon municipal services, the neighborhood, and traffic. According to the Planning Department, the site plan has been reviewed by the Building Department and conforms in all aspects to City Code. Based upon the above, the City Council makes the following findings and facts. The applicant has complied with all rules and regulations promulgated by the City Council. City Council finds that the proposed expansion of the allowed scope of uses for warehousing beyond that which is defined in Section 650-18A36 of the proposed ordinance in the limited industrial zoning district, specifically including the proposed use at the site, is an appropriate use and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance, when subject to the appropriate terms and conditions as provided in this decision. The City Council makes these findings subject to the completion and adherence by the applicant to the conditions more fully set forth. City Council, pursuant to its authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance, grants the application for a special permit to construct the project for purposes of operating of a warehouse and distribution facility at the site, specifically for the uses set forth in the application documents, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, construction in accordance with applicable laws. Construction of all structures on the site shall be in accordance with all applicable building codes and zoning regulations in effect in the City of Marlborough and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and shall be built according to site plans approved in the final site plan approval. Site plan review. The applicant shall comply with the terms and conditions set forth in the final site plan approval. Terms and conditions of such decision and findings are hereby a part of this decision. Number 3, Conservation Commission. The applicant shall comply with the terms and conditions set forth in the final order of conditions. The terms and conditions of such decision and findings are hereby a part of this decision. Number 4, compliance with the applicable laws. The applicant shall comply with all applicable municipal, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances. They may apply to the construction, maintenance, and operation of the project and the use of the site. Incorporation of submissions, all plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as part of the application and as amended or revised during the application hearing process before the City Council and/or Urban Affairs are herein incorporated into and become a part of this special permit and become conditions and requirements of the same unless otherwise altered by the City Council. And I have noted, based on the first special permit, that we need to specify the plans within this, so I will take all of the documentation from number 5, the incorporation of submissions, which lists all of those plans. Number 6 is hours of operation. The operation of the use at the site shall be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Number 7, lighting. Applicant, its successors and/or signs shall install lighting in accordance with the site plan submitted with the application to prevent unreasonable light trespass from the site onto neighboring properties. Landscaping. Applicant and its successors and/or signs shall plant and maintain in good condition the project's landscaping substantially in conformance with the site plan submitted with the application. And number 9 is our standard recording of the decision. So, other than maybe adding in a condition about signage, Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. What we haven't talked about yet, and I didn't want to throw this out at the last minute, but is there any idea of you guys putting solar on the roof of this building? I mean, it's either you plan for it now or it never gets done. You either do the support in the roof.
It is planned for supports of, I'm not sure, John, if you know exactly how that structure is, but usually these are designed for some type of support.
Okay, I have known large structures like this either are or are not. And there's no retrofitting afterwards, so that's what I wanted clarification for. So I'll take that as a yes. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Anybody else on the committee with questions, concerns? Councilor Fricillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take a second to recognize going through site plan and seeing a lot of the conditions. I know that, kind of vice versa, there was a lot of give and take. And in speaking with city engineering, I know they still have some concerns regarding traffic, but it seems like there's been, a strong effort to meet us where we are on a number of issues. So I really do appreciate that. One thing that I noticed in past special permits that we've done is just regarding noise and air quality. I know that the one gentleman who came out during the public hearing had mentioned a couple of concerns. I know noise was one of them. I'm not sure if there's an opportunity for us to maybe add a condition. In the past, we use language just that you will, stay within the city's noise ordinance, and that's really it. I mean, that's, anyway, that would still be a regulation anyway, but I think just adding it to the special permit could be beneficial. I don't know if there's an appetite for it. My other main concern was just the hours of operation. I just kind of wanted to know why it would need to be a 24-hour facility. I know in the traffic study you mentioned that most of the trips, most of the volume occurs between the hours of 6 and 10. So kind of what is the incentive to be a 24-hour facility?
I'll tell you what I think it is, and then I'll ask the applicant. Literally, sometimes you have to get some of your product out a long ways, and you have to do it up at night to get it out the door. And that's why it's maybe 2 an hour. What's that? 16 over the course of the night if at a max. I don't want to limit it to 16 because what if we did 17, but it's going to be minimal, but I'll let the landlord.
Yeah, Scott Faber with Lincoln. So, a lot of it is related to, again, and we heard that as a concern, and we understand, again, we want to be working with everyone here, but one of the things that we tied it to was that the traffic study would be kind of the golden rule here in this case, and so that traffic study is saying only certain 2 trucks an hour, during those more kind of off-hour timeframes is what we have to be held accountable for. And if it's found that it won't operate that way and we're not holding our tenants to that, and really a lot of that is just because, say, a tenant needs cargo comes in late in New Jersey, the guy is booked to get here, so he's just got to come up, and they don't want to have to reschedule him for another time to come up. It's 5 hours to get here from that port. That's just what it's going to take, and that's how it goes. So I think it really limits you from your tenant base if you have no flexibility on that. If you're able to say, like, look, we have this flexibility, that's it. That's absolutely fine, and we found that's acceptable. And again, we have to mitigate that. We have to control that if it doesn't come in that way. So, and we work with the building inspector during that process after it is operational. So that was how we looked to solve it. We've seen other projects. There's a project in Rentham that allows no night traffic. It has been empty for 3 years. simply because it is just simply not allowed at all. So no tenants will look at that building just simply because of that rule.
No, I appreciate that insight. I think it's a strong compromise, the fact that in those, not peak hours, you guys are holding yourselves accountable, that traffic is what you're going to be too. So, I wouldn't be in favor of amending the hours of operation. I think 24 is sufficient considering that condition that you've, come to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other, Councilor Vidal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How many loading docks do you plan on having?
I don't want to say loading docks if they're not a loading dock. I think it's written on there, but...
There was 30 spaces.
34...
35 loading bays in site plan.
It is on there, yep. I just so everyone kind of knows, I've done a little bit of reconnaissance here. I went up there at nighttime, and I couldn't see any lights from any of the residential facilities at all. You'd have to climb up on the hill and maybe get them, and I can't say for the winter time, but right now you can't see any residents, any lights. And then right across the street, there's a facility that has 11 loading docks. So they must have some truck. I don't know if they have any deliveries at nighttime, but they definitely have shipments coming in right across the street. So just an FYI. And there's farther up Elm Street on the same side, there's another manufacturing facility, and they have, I think, 7 loading docks. So there are big trucks going up and down Elm Street.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were included in our traffic study.
I see Councilor, I'll do Councilor Orem, then Councilor President. I saw your hand, so go.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll concur to some degree with the ward councilor from Ward 6. I'm concerned about the 24/7. Noise changes at night. The background noise drops. And you mentioned you would follow all noise bylaws, state laws. They don't have any requirements for trucks to be quieted down at night. They can make as much noise as that truck's supposed to make. Secondly, and more importantly, backup alarms cannot be changed and muffled. So when you say you're going to meet noise ordinances, I respect that. I've done noise studies, so I understand how they work. We had an asphalt plant and trucks were going through at night, and the town finally made them stop. Because that background noise cannot be considered as a violation of noise bylaws. Those trucks are supposed to make that noise, and they can. And same with the backup alarms. And again, at night, your noise drops down. When I'm out at a campground, I can hear the traffic on 95 3 miles away. And I know 495's right there, but to add backup alarms and additional truck traffic on Felton Street as well as Elm Street, the reason this is probably limited industrial is because you're mixing in with residential. And I don't think that's fair to the residential. So if you're not going to consider the hour change, I can't vote for this based on my comments. Thank you.
If I could, Madam Chair?
Yes, if you...
It's my understanding, I've done a lot of noise attenuation, especially over at Ken's at the refrigerated food facility in Southborough. And anything over 10 decibels above what is there now is a violation. Okay? So even if those backup noises are above that, then we have to attenuate it. Yeah, we don't have to shut them off.
Madam Chair, if I can.
We have to attenuate.
After he's done.
We have to attenuate. And over there, we had to build a wall because the abutters were that close, that wall. They were only that far away from us. We're above them, number one, quite a bit. And they're 600 feet down on Berlin. Felton, they're a little closer. But most of the trucks are on the back side of Felton. So you got the building in front between them. So the activity would be in the back. So I mean, I understand your concerns, and that's why we're doing a baseline so that we can be able to address this later if it comes up as a problem.
And Madam Chair, if I can just help with that. As you said, you cannot attenuate the backup alarms. They're allowed by federal government laws unless you build a wall. That's a different way to do it. And I'd rather not wait to have a wall built. If you want to build a wall now, a soundproof wall to protect the abutters, then that's okay for that spot, but then your increased traffic on Felton Street late at night is another concern of mine. So, and the city engineer has noted that. So until you can come back with those concessions, I can't support this. Especially I can't support 24/7.
Yeah, well,
Thank you. And
we have
it's-
24/7 now.
Gentlemen, I don't think this is...
No, we don't need to debate.
Don't need
But
to
the
be
other point I
debating.
want to make, Madam Chair, is we set a dangerous precedent for all the other businesses. Why not me? Why can they operate 24/7? We're across the street with less bays, but we can't operate 24/7. I would question that as well. Thank you.
Councilor Preciado?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation. You guys did a lot of work to put this together. And I did have a question regarding the solar panels that Councilor Doucette had already asked. I know that this is a quite substantial chunk of land that is going to be essentially developed and repaved and, you know, asphalt over. It's over 4.5 acres. I'm just wondering, aside from solar panels, do you have any plans to help mitigate the loss of habitat and you know, loss of green space that we're going to have if this gets approved and gets built?
Well, we try to preserve all the habitat area with the wall so that we could build up where it's already disturbed today. So it's not like we're interfering with a corridor. You know, I see your point, and that's exactly why we built it the way we did, so that we wouldn't take out that corridor behind us.
Gotcha. I also do want to echo Councilor Orm's concerns regarding the noise. This does, the way it is right now, it does create a noise buffer, pollution buffer from 495 to the folks over at Berlin Road. So I would be concerned that would increase both traffic pollution, light pollution, noise pollution. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Councilor Facillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to kind of go back to this idea of the 24-hour use. You know, I'll be very candid. After reviewing this, my intention was to try to limit the hours of use. You know, I came into this meeting thinking, you know, that this would be a dangerous situation for residents. But those concerns are very much conned by what you folks have told me. In the site plan review, you are holding yourselves accountable to your own traffic study that says that you'll do 2 truck trips during those hours between 10 to 6 every hour. So that's 12 total trips during that time.
Right.
You know, so I personally, I don't share in other council's concerns that this being open 24/7 is going to be an issue. I think it helps you folks do business, right? The last thing we want is to build this and have it be a vacant building, right? Now, nobody here wants that. And not only that, I think this condition within site plan ensures that you guys are held accountable. And, you know, in the event that something does happen, that you do 3 trucks in that period of time, then the city has an opportunity, you know, to ensure that you guys comply with that going forward. So, you know, I'm very comfortable with the hours of operation as is, and you know, I'm at this moment, I would be supportive of this project. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
All right. Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So my father was a truck driver, so I know the history as far as truck driving. They tend to work with very odd hours, and you know, if you think traffic is unpredictable, wait until you get inside a truck and try to drive a truck, you know, interstate from point A to point B, and you cannot predict when you're going to reach your destination, which is why facilities like this, terminals like this, have to be open 24/7. If they're not open 24/7, then some guy is going to be parked in the parking lot waiting for the place to open, still on the clock, which is why the guys keep the place closed, because they can't do 24-hour entry. So I think it's important as a feature that this is kept open 24/7, because it's an important part of these guys' business model, to make sure they can get something, they can drop it off. After they drop it off, then they can go crash. That's another story. But I think it's important that the 24/7 is part of this. I think because of the height it is and the distance it is away from Berlin Road specifically, still 600 feet high, I'm not sure how much even the backing lights are going to be heard from Berlin Road at that point, but we won't know for sure until it's up. The platform itself, I think, will create more of a sound buffer for 495 than trees, because it's solid surface up there now, like walls and stuff. So I think overall, it has issues with traffic, but I think overall it would be an opportunity for people to take advantage of for distribution in around the New England area, because it's location, location, location. So I do approve it. If anyone else has any concerns, I would motion to approve.
It's been moved. I have some comments to make too. I will second, and then I will just bring up the fact that I will remind everybody that there is a site plan approval for a warehouse and manufacturing and warehousing, which will allow them to warehouse footwear, precision instruments, tool and die, dental, medical, optical equipment, electrical and electronic instruments, hobby vehicle storage, biomedical and biotechnology products, subject to the provisions governing biomedical research, provided truck loading and parking areas are effectively screened from abutting office and residential use. That is something by right that site plan has approved. They're asking us to give them a special permit for a transportation terminal and freight depot for which they have absolutely no idea who that will be, except that it can't be Amazon or similar direct-to-consumer fulfillment. However, it says very clearly, provided, however, the proposed uses shall, oh, no, that's not the part I want. The warehousing use shall be specific to any future tenant's warehousing business operations at the property and not be limited to the allowed scope of uses for warehousing that I just read. So they're not only asking us for a transportation terminal that they have no idea who it's going for, and they want it 24/7, they also want to be able to put stuff in there that isn't even in our code. And that's where my concern is, along with the amount of truck traffic. I did not get to go to all of site plans meetings because they changed the dates back and I had a conflict, but to every single one that I went to, site plan in their ways, they had to approve this, but they sure didn't want to have to approve it. They're going to be cutting down trees, they're going to be putting up a wall that nobody wanted, they're going to destroy a habitat that's back there probably. I have concerns about the noise. I know I live near a lot of noise between Marlborough Hospital and the police station traffic. We got a resident who sent us information that he hears 495 traffic constantly. I know Elm Street can hear 495 traffic. I do not think we don't have to approve a special permit. They have a site plan that they can go and build a building if they choose to do so. I do not know if the hours are limited in the site plan. There's nothing that I can find to talk about the hours, but I cannot vote for this. So that's where I stand. I saw Councilor Ossing with the hand up, I believe, and then Councilor Doucette, I'll get back to you if you have further comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you are correct, site plan is approved, so they can build the facility right now, right? Trucks are going to come 24/7, right? I personally look at it, I think our zoning is flawed. I think, and I submitted a draft to the solicitor, but it hasn't gone anywhere yet, that the warehousing should be changed similar to what we do for retail. Retail under 75,000 gets built by right. Retail over 75,000 has to come before the council with a special permit. I think warehousing should be the same. Why we pick those handful of items, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems kind of limited. I would think we'd want to have it more, you know, a warehouse is a warehouse. You want to have more things. Now, if we want to limit it, because if it comes before us for a special permit, that way we get the say and say, okay, we don't want, pick whatever you want. Don't like an Amazon, don't like tires, you can pick whatever you want, right? So I still think that it's going to be built. So, Councilor Roby, you're concerned about, you know, I agree, there was consternation at site plan and conservation, but they did work through all their items and came up with approval. But something will, like anything else, if you don't want something built there, go buy it. The developer has the permission, and they got their rights to go build it, and they did everything they're supposed to, so they're gonna go build a 200,000 square foot warehouse. They're looking at an opportunity to say, I can fill that warehouse quicker if I have some flexibility in the zoning, which is what we're being tasked with. So you can say you don't want to, but I agree with Councilor Doucette. I don't want an empty 200,000 square foot warehouse. We see the challenge. The 1,000 Nickerson, what's it, 120,000 square feet of space right now. It's been completed, what, 2 years? They're just now starting to rent about a third of it, which is great, but it takes time. But they went and built a building with no tenants. So it will get done. Do we make it easy or do we make it hard? I say we put the checks and balances in place so that they can, do what site plan and conservation gave them the opportunity to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I guess I would argue maybe they won't build it because they don't have a tenant. But Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So our zoning somewhat exclusionary. If it's not listed, we can't do it, which in the case of the warehouse storage is a brilliant example of how it falls flat on its face, i.e. flawed, As an example, for about a year and a half now, I've gotten into this meal delivery service. Once a week, they drop off a box with ice packs and food that I can serve for three nights, right? So where does that come from? How could that ever be distributed from Marlboro? Because we don't allow refrigeration for storage, warehousing storage and stuff like that. We set up lines based upon the history of what we did. Shoes, high tech, boy, does that sound familiar. Look at our history books. But we got to start looking forward to what is available for warehouses available today. And with changes of technology, people are getting a lot more things delivered to their home from multiple sources, not just Amazon. But, the demands of the channel is much more significant. I read on NPR, they had an essay about how refrigerating of produce has changed in the last 40 years, because it's not just climate control, it's environmental control, nitrogen gas and all that stuff. You could see a chunk of this used for produce and just long-term storage of produce or something like that. Local apples to be distributed later, things like that. So I think what we need to do in this case is kind of give them the crack to open up and see what sort of warehousing issues need to be addressed for the modern, the 21st century, and make sure that we fulfill a solution to address that for the area. But thank you.
All right. I am not positive because there's actually nothing after the words transportation terminal and freight depot in the code, but I would bet that those can be air conditioned and that they can in fact store things that need to be air conditioned. So if we don't want this to be a place that would have air conditioning that I think was brought up as a concern, then it should probably be specified that it's not, because it's not just going to be warehousing, it's going to be a transportation terminal that allows a whole different set of uses that are very unclear to me what they are.
If I could, Chairman Roby, just 1 second. The reason we're here under that part of the bylaw is because the building inspector said that's how we had to come to you, because you don't have warehousing anywhere else. So we came to you under that. We're still going to build the warehouse we're planning to build. We're not going to create like a Ken's refrigeration facility, and that's what the problem was over in Southborough. You had 20 refrigeration trucks out there at night running, and it was actually low frequency that people were hearing. 495 blocked out the high frequency, but you could hear the low frequency, and that's why we built million-dollar wall, basically. And you don't do that until you know it's needed, you know?
But nowhere in here does it say that it will not be a refrigerated terminal or freight depot. So you don't know who your tenant is yet?
We're just looking to expand. Right now, we're having, under what we're allowed, tenants come and they're like, well, maybe, maybe not, and then they'll go somewhere else where it's quicker, all right? And that's what Marlboro used to be. We were quick. We would get things done and move on. And we just want the latitude that if, let's say, a utility company that sells stuff for your house, your refrigerators, things like that, they want to store that stuff there. That's the type of thing we're planning is going to go there. I mean, I can't tell you it won't be refrigerated food because I don't know. And if it is, we'd have to comply with the building department to make sure any condensers or anything we were putting on the thing met code.
Is there further discussion? I believe it's been moved and seconded to approve. Does anybody want to add in the point made by the Commissioner Tway on the signage? So that we add in that sentence, signage shall comply with the city's sign ordinance.
So moved.
All right, so it is the draft special permit as amended, adding in the signage language. Is there further discussion? Councilor Fricillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quickly, the noise and air quality, is that something we also wanted to assign, or were we just under the assumption that site plan was?
Do you have specific language, or do you want to?
I would move to add, I've gotten this from other special permits as well, noise and air quality. The applicant shall comply with the city's noise ordinance and shall comply with all state and federal requirements governing air quality and emissions. So very, very basic standard line, but I think that covers some of what was discussed today, especially about the noise and some of the air quality concerns.
Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
And if you can give me that language, I can make sure it's in what gets sent. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3. All those opposed would be me. Who are we missing? Oh, I'm sorry. How did you vote? Did I okay. It's like, wait a minute, who didn't vote? All right, so this will be reported out with a vote of 3 in favor, 2 opposed. At the July 21st meeting, I'll ask for suspension to have it referred to the solicitor so he can make sure everything is included that we've discussed tonight. Everything else is in proper form, and we'll be back in August for a vote.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, ma'am?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are adjourned at 8:52. Thank you.